Astana, the second day of the International Conference on Syria. As expected, the parties should accept the final communique. Meanwhile, there is evidence that the opposition is prepared separate from the guarantor's statement and also refuses to discuss a political settlement of the conflict, reports Russia 24. As reported by a member of the delegation of the Syrian opposition Osama Abu Zaid, the delegation of the Syrian opposition at talks in Astana is preparing a separate statement. According to him, the statement, jointly prepared Turkey, Russia and Iran, applies only to those countries, reports Itafax. The opposition representative added that it should be will move to real action. We have to show to their supporters in Syria, who have no internet, no social networks, something is being done. To do this, just stop the war, he concluded. Osama Abu Zaid said the delegation of the Syrian opposition refuses to discuss political issues until an armistice.
The U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs approved the candidacy of Rex Tillerson to the post of Secretary of State. VS, as expected, were made by the Democrats. But the Republicans more, and this is the appropriate committee, and across the upper chamber of Parliament, which now will also have to vote for the candidate on one of key posts in the White House. For Tillerson is now ready to vote, even a staunch opponent of Moscow Senator John McCain, who previously criticized the former head of oil company ExxonMobil for its relationship with Russia. However, speaking in the Senate, the candidate made clear that he believes our country unfriendly opponent. However, he expressed hope that the US and Russia will not go into the category of enemies. Today, the Washington was sworn in as the new head of the CIA. They became Michael Pompeo. At a hearing in the Senate Committee on the Intelligence, he, in turn, said that Russia is aggressive restores its position in the world. Rescuers of Russia and Israel has prepared a plan of cooperation for the next 2 years. The agreement was reached during a working trip of the head Emercom of Russia Vladimir Puchekov. The Russian minister visited the training center in Tel Aviv. On the Israeli side once again conveyed gratitude to the Russian pilots for assistance in extinguishing fires in Israel at a critical moment in November. There were sent 2B-200 aircraft. Rescuers have agreed to exchange information in real time. In real time would provide all the information on the status and trends of weather conditions, the risks, dangers and threats of natural and technosphere, of course, all the modern forms and methods of training and professional firefighters and professional rescuers, and all categories of the population, the right and adequate actions. This is the general format of our cooperation, said Vladimir Puchekov. Brussels was shrouded in white smoke. Farmers from different European countries came to the protest, filled all the dry milk. So they expressed dissatisfaction with the agricultural policy pursued by the EU. Concerns of farmers is the intention of the European Commission to begin to sell stocks of milk that had accumulated after the measures introduced by Russia in response to sanctions. The appearance on the market of a large number of these products will bring down already low prices. Protested in Greece. The streets of different cities of the country filled the tractors. Their farmers angered by rising taxes and fuel prices. Against this background, one of the main contenders for the French presidency in future elections, Republican François Fillon, during a visit to Germany said that it is time to reconsider trade relations with Russia. My point is this: Russia, in my view, intended to become the main partner of European countries. We need to review our cooperation to counter the threat of terrorism. Also in our interests to develop trade partnership, said François Fillon. About 400,000 citizens of Belarus must pay tax under the new law, which has caused a lot of disturbances. The document, better known as Decree on Parasitism, obliges those who are never employed to pay a special fee. People are trying to challenge this rule. Maya Almova second year looking for a job. In 2015 it will be reduced, since to find a vacant seat does not work. I called one of the employers. Says come in for an interview, will be the 15th. On the other end of the city. Makes no sense to even go. And the vacancy seller, says Maya. Recently, she received a notice from the tax office. The woman got under action of the decree on the prevention of social dependency. It is called a decree sponges. Now for the period of involuntary unemployment it must also pay the state 360 Belarusia rubles, which is about 12,000 Russian. They are not. Where, if I'm not working? Mother, that you have to pay mine. To live then. Outraged Maya. Sensational Decree Number 3, Alexander Lukashenko, signed in April 2015. Those who are officially employed more than 6 months and was not at this time registered at the employment center, was obliged to pay the fee on average, about $250. You don't pay, accrued interest, limited civil rights, can even be arrested for 15 days and sent to public works. The Belarusia authorities hope that this will help bring out of the shadows of those who gets wages in envelopes. People will take vacant jobs. In addition, officials this measure seemed fair. The person who is able to work, not disabled, it should work, to earn for himself, his family, to his children and to benefit their country, paying taxes, said the President Alexander Lukashenko. Exceptions are then made for multiple categories, for example, students, priests, families with many children and parents whose children of preschool age. But it turned out that without them parasites in Belarus very much. The notice of the tax in the 10 country has received about 400,000 people. While officially unemployment in the last year alone grew by more than a third. I think it's stupid and unfair. If I'm starting in 2016, in December only managed to get a job, and consisted on the account in the employment center. If there are no vacancies, what is the tax? Perplexed a resident of Slutsk Vuga Imerov. The new tax is only paid 24,000 people. Meanwhile, across the country activists are collecting signatures for the abolition of the decree in offices, markets, on the internet. The signatories have tens of thousands. On the streets disputes. Parasites suddenly came to be considered those who work abroad, for example, in Russia or Poland. So-called freelancers, and just those who are not working because can afford it. According to many lawyers, it is a violation of the Constitution. In the tax code today there is no such fee, which is in the decree. Moreover, in the Constitution, no matter how said person has the right, is a right, not an obligation. The choice of work. The chairman of Trade Union of Workers of Radio Electronic Industry of the Republic of Belarus had said Fiadiech. When it became clear that the reaction to Decree Number 3 in a mixed society, the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection developed the amendments. And earlier this year Alexander Lukashenko signed the decree. From the list of social parasites removed several categories, particularly athletes and those who pass alternative military service. Leniency promised to show to those who were in difficult life situations, for example, more than 6 months cared for sick relatives. The new version of the decree was unpleasantly surprised parents of preschoolers. Now they are also considered parasites, if you do not work, and the child goes to kindergarten. The tax office was bombarded with letters demanding to know why, in principle, the government considers the hundreds of thousands of people dependent. The Ministry of Labor and the Ministry for Taxes and Levies refused to journalists the comments. Meanwhile, activists want to convey to the deputies of the Republic of signatures for the abolition of the controversial document. If they would be more than 50,000, the petition may acquire the force of law.
The governor of Minnesota, Democrat Mark Dato, fainted during his speech. It happened just at the moment when he made an address to the members of the House of Representatives of the state. The footage shows that Dato is starting to speak slower and suddenly drop. To help, the governor arrived from colleagues and nurses. After a few minutes he came to himself. Mark dato soon will be 70 years. It is the oldest chapter of Minnesota in the history of the state, reports Channel Russia 24.